He called black women gold diggers. He told his own children, that he should be the last option that they are able to call whenever they need help. He didn't even want to pay for his own, I believe it was his daughter's wedding.
Like you, man, y'all get to a certain age and you still like them young. You like
Yeah.
You like the same age girls I like.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Everybody always talk about date your age. Well, I want to date my wage. I'm finna shut all this ish down tonight. I want to date my wage.
Stay right there.
Where y'all at?
I ain't backing down. You better take your old ass and get somebody to love you.
Damn, Mo.
Now I'm looking right at y'all. Let me tell you y'all what Shannon needs.
Let me live my
Let
life.
me tell you what my baby need. He need him an old fat gal who can bake good cakes, make some smothered turkey wings, who gonna rub his feet at the nighttime, okay, and gonna have a sip of his cognac to make him feel better about himself when he come home at night. That's what Shannon need. You don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl.
I do.
This is your auntie talking to you. Take your old ass and get you an old bitch out there that can love you old. You trying to hang out with these young bitches and
They say nothing flips faster than a man with money trying to flex. And Shannon Sharpe just became the poster boy for it. This man once bragged about knowing how to play the game, but now he's the one getting played hard. Some folks are calling it karma. Others are just laughing at the irony. Either way, this is the biggest L Shannon has ever taken. And let's be real, nobody's shedding tears for him. Not the fans, not the critics, and definitely not Monique, who had already warned him that his choices were reckless. She wasn't jealous, she wasn't bitter. She just knew he was setting himself up for disaster. But Shannon? He brushed it off, chasing a younger lifestyle he couldn't control. Remember how he once said he wanted to date his wage, not his age? Well, now that paycheck of his is about to bankroll the softest retirement package you've ever seen for a 22-year-old OnlyFans model. Imagine working your whole career just to turn your millions into her pension plan. Unbelievable. Here's where it gets messy. Back in April, Gabriella Zuniga hit Shannon with a $50 million lawsuit claiming he assaulted her multiple times since their relationship began in 2023. That's not just a messy breakup, that's career-ending paperwork sitting on his desk. And here's the part that got people shaking their heads. This woman isn't just younger, she's decades younger, closer in age to his kids than to him. That's who he gambled his whole reputation on. Fans have been saying for years that Shannon had some questionable moves when it came to women. Always quick to tear down black women, labeling them gold diggers. But now, Gabriella flipped the script and turned the spotlight back on him, exposing every contradiction for the world to see. Gabriella's lawsuit didn't just ask for money, it spilled tea so wild it had people clutching their phones. She claimed there were multiple times Shannon allegedly threatened her, got physical, and ignored her crying pleas when she said no. What started out as a consensual relationship, according to her, quickly flipped into something darker, with Shannon allegedly getting controlling, cold, and demanding power over nearly every detail of her life, even her body weight. But it didn't stop there. Gabriella says the man who always preached about privacy and respect was actually violating hers behind closed doors. She claims Shannon shared private videos she sent him with his own friends even after she begged him not to. That's humiliation on top of heartbreak, and people online dragged him for it. Once word of the lawsuit hit, Shannon didn't hesitate. He snapped into defense mode. He brushed it all off as a straight-up shakedown and pointed fingers at Gabriella's lawyer, Tony Busby. If that name rings bells, it should. He's the same attorney who once went after Jay-Z. Shannon tried to paint the whole thing as some recycled attack strategy, saying Tony was targeting him for a quick payout. But here's the ugly truth. Whether it's a shakedown or not, Shannon only ended up in this position because of his own reckless choices. He's the one who opened the door, and now the fallout is hitting harder than any linebacker ever did. And let's not forget, folks had already told him straight up to leave those young women alone, especially the type he kept chasing. Instead of listening, he doubled down. And now the internet is roasting him for acting shocked when the whole thing blew up in his face. The crazy part is, it wasn't like Shannon wasn't warned. The entire community had been on him for months, telling him straight up to leave those young women alone. It wasn't just Monique speaking out. It was Cat Williams, Kirk Franklin, Cheryl Underwood, even Lil Yachty throwing shade, all echoing the same message. You're playing a dangerous game. But Shannon thought he was untouchable, bigger than the problem, and now the whole thing has blown up right in his face. And here's the wild twist. The money Shannon refused to pour into his own kids' futures Gabriella just secured for herself. She put out a statement announcing her retirement from OnlyFans, and the timing could not have been messier. She wrote, "Today, I have decided to retire from OnlyFans. Thank you for the incredible support you've shown me over the past few years. This community has given me a life I could have never imagined. I'll still be active on social media and have several new projects in the works that I can't wait to share. I am truly excited for this next chapter. I love you all forever and ever." That's not just a goodbye letter, though. That's a victory lap. And guess who's footing the bill for her new chapter? Yep, Shannon. Reports say he agreed to settle with Gabriella for a jaw-dropping $23 million. That's more than he ever earned in his entire NFL career. So much for fighting to the bitter end, because wasn't Shannon the same one who swore up and down that he'd never settle? Now, Gabriella is stacking projects on top of projects while Shannon's career crumbles. And it doesn't stop there. Right after news of the settlement broke, ESPN decided to cut him loose, tearing up his massive $50 million contract. According to Shannon, they didn't even have the decency to give him a heads up. He really thought he'd be back on air for the start of training camp, smiling next to the NFL highlights. Instead, he was blindsided, watching ESPN move on without him, all while his brother was celebrating a Hall of Fame induction. Talk about humiliating timing. Shannon Sharpe went from celebrating family milestones to losing everything in the span of weeks, and the internet isn't letting him forget it. And if anybody thought Gabriella would be the first and last woman to take Shannon Sharpe to court, think again. That lawsuit didn't just cost him millions, it set a blueprint. Gabriella basically handed out a playbook on how to run up a check on a superstar, and trust, other women are already flipping through the pages. Because let's be real, Gabriella wasn't the only young woman Shannon was entertaining, and the whispers are starting to surface. Case in point, Shannon just got slapped with another $20 million lawsuit, this time for libel and defamation. The woman's name? Gimelita Tillman. She claims both Shannon and his partner Ochocinco wrecked her personal and professional reputation when they clowned her over that viral Usher concert clip, claiming she was married and getting divorced. She's saying their comments damaged her life, and now she wants the bag too. Sources close to the situation say Shannon is exhausted from the constant lawsuits and is trying to shift his focus fully onto his podcast. Because let's face it, that show might be his only lifeline until he lands another big deal. But while he's scrambling to rebuild, social media is roasting him nonstop. The jokes write themselves. Shannon Sharpe is out here funding generational wealth, just not for his own bloodline. And here's the kicker. The hypocrisy is eating people alive. Shannon was always tight-fisted when it came to his kids, never quick to share his blessings. But now he's wiring millions left and right to women who barely knew him a year ago. Fans are calling it divine payback, with some even saying God sent him the exact type of woman he chased to take it all away. To ESPN, it's confirmation that Shannon isn't just messy, he's a liability. And to the public, he's the perfect example of what happens when you let your lack of discipline cost you everything. Here's where the irony hits the hardest. Shannon Sharpe just dropped $23 million on a young Latina model, yet when his own daughter was planning her wedding, he told her budget capped at $30,000. 30 grand! He even suggested she serve her guests spaghetti to cut costs, while he's out here wiring generational wealth to somebody else's family. The internet hasn't let that slide for 1 second. They're dragging him like never before. Think about it. This man spent decades grinding his way into the top seat at ESPN, fighting for that primetime spotlight, only to throw it all away in under a year. And for what? To chase youth, clout, and attention that was never going to last. Fans are calling it one of the ugliest self-inflicted fumbles in sports history. If this isn't a lesson in what happens when you gamble everything for the fountain of youth, then what is? Shannon Sharpe wanted acceptance and validation so badly that he lost the very empire he built. And the worst part is, the people cashing out off his name don't even share his last one. The internet can't get enough of the wedding spaghetti story. It's become the ultimate symbol of Shannon Sharpe's downfall. Imagine this. His own daughter was told she had to stick to a $30,000 budget for one of the most important days of her life. Guests were supposed to eat spaghetti on paper plates to save cash. Spaghetti. Meanwhile, the same man just signed off a check worth $23 million to a woman he barely knew a year ago. Fans are saying it loud. Shannon's feeding lawsuits 5-star meals while his family gets noodles. That contradiction hit hard because it exposed what people had been whispering for years, that Shannon never poured into his bloodline the way he poured into strangers. He was so obsessed with the image of wealth, dating flashy younger women, flexing for the cameras, that he missed the bigger picture, taking care of home first. And now, instead of investing in his daughter's dreams, he's bankrolling Gabriella's retirement package. Social media ran wild with memes, editing spaghetti plates next to ESPN logos and photos of Shannon with his head down. Some even joked that Gabriella should cater his daughter's wedding now, since technically she's the one with the Sharpe family's real budget in her bank account. It's savage, but it shows just how bad the optics are. Shannon thought he was chasing youth, but what he really did was serve up the perfect plate of irony. For all the years he mocked others about fumbling the bag, he fumbled harder than anyone. Instead of seeing his daughter walk down the aisle with pride, he's watching the internet laugh at her wedding spaghetti while Gabriella strolls into a brand new lifestyle, fully funded by him. So here we are, Shannon Sharpe, a man who fought his way from the bottom to NFL greatness, only to have his legacy reduced to memes about spaghetti and lawsuits. The man who once demanded respect on ESPN's biggest stage is now the punchline, with fans saying his true highlight reel isn't touchdowns or hot takes, but cutting wedding budgets and cutting million-dollar checks to women who flipped his own arrogance against him. Think about how wild that is. Shannon had everything lined up: wealth, influence, a powerful platform, but instead of protecting it, he gambled on youth, attention, and women who saw through the act. Now, Gabriella retires with millions, sponsors back out, ESPN washes its hands, and his daughter is left with the memory of being told to serve spaghetti at her wedding while strangers eat filet mignon on his dime. That's the kind of downfall people never forget. And the most brutal part? He did it to himself. Nobody forced Shannon into these choices. Nobody made him disrespect black women. Nobody told him to chase clout instead of protecting his empire. He played himself, and the receipts are stamped in public record. What was once a Hall of Fame career is now a cautionary tale. A man who thought he was bigger than the problem until the problem swallowed him whole. But don't get it twisted. This story isn't over. If Gabriella's lawsuit is the first domino, you can bet more shoes are going to drop. And Shannon's next chapter might be even messier. This saga is a masterclass in how fast the mighty can fall. And the internet is watching every second. And if you want all the raw details, the scandals, the shade, and the behind-the-scenes dirt the mainstream won't touch, you already know where to be. Keep it locked on BarzBuzz, where the truth hits harder than any linebacker ever could.